Good morning, students. Today we will discuss lesson number 7, conservation of plants and animals. In this lesson, we will discuss what are the threats to biodiversity and what are various methods to conserve it. So, let us start our lesson with the term biodiversity. Biodiversity means the variety of life forms found on our planet in a particular area. Biodiversity has arisen because of the varied climatic zones. The climate determines which type of plants and animals will survive and flourish in a particular region. India has a rich and varied biodiversity. More than 50% of the total species of plants and animals found on the earth are present in India. Therefore, India is one of the mega biodiversity nations of the world. Let us discuss the various factors leading to extinction of wild species and depletion of biodiversity. First is habitat loss due to increase in human population. Due to great increase in human population, there is a rapid decline of biodiversity because more and more land is needed for agriculture, housing, for making roads, for construction of dams, etc. Next is deforestation and overgrazing. The cutting of trees on a large scale by man causes deforestation. Similarly, overgrazing by increased population of cattle and sheep causes shrinkage of grasslands and loss of habitat of wild animals. Next is pollution. As we know, air and water is getting polluted by the toxic elements released from industries and petroleum products. Weak and susceptible species are unable to tolerate the pollutants and are eliminated. Next is introduction of exotic species. The species introduced into a new locality from some other area is called exotic species. They compete with the species already existing in that area and may cause extinction of some native species. Human greed. International trade in wildlife and wildlife products has threatened the existence of tigers, bears, foxes, elephants, crocodiles, etc. Now the question arises why there is need for conservation of biodiversity. We human beings are a part of nature and all the components of nature are interdependent. Any damage to its biodiversity will threaten the whole support system and will be a threat to human existence. Therefore, biodiversity needs to be conserved. Conservation of biodiversity means conservation of forests and conservation of wildlife. Before discussing to conserve forest, let us study what are the causes of depletion of forest. Causes of deforestation. Deforestation is clearing of forest for using the land for other purposes. Human beings are felling trees for procuring land for cultivation of crops, vegetables and fruits and for buildings, houses, factories, etc. Clearing land for minings, cutting trees for making furniture, etc. And there are some natural causes of deforestation. For example, forest fire, severe droughts, flood, earthquake, landslides, and some fungal disease of plants. Deforestation has many serious consequences. One is global warming. Deforestation increases level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, causing global warming and greenhouse effect. Next is change in climate. Deforestation increases temperature, reduces rainfall, increases wind velocity. All these changes lead to climatic changes. Next is desertification. The felling of trees causes change in the physical property of soil. The water holding capacity of the soil changes. It is removed by the strong winds causing soil erosion. The fertile land gets converted into desert and this is called desertification. Next is drought. Disturbed water cycle, reduced rains and lowering of water table. Due to removal of trees causes frequent droughts. soil erosion and floods, loss of wildlife. Deforestation leads to loss of wild plants and natural habitats of wild animals and depletion of food sources. Next is depletion of resources. Forests provide with a variety of essential commodities like food, fodder, firewood, fruits, etc. They support a variety of human races living in forests. Now we will discuss how to conserve forest. This can be achieved by adopting the following ways. Forest resources should be used rationally, economically and miserly. Preventing overgrazing. Grazing by cattle should be regulated. Protection from fire, pest and diseases. Felling of trees should be made punishable activity. Afforestation. Replanting trees in forest is called afforestation. Journal awareness. It is necessary to create general awareness in the people for forest conservation through different media and mass movement. In this regard, Chipko movement in Garhwal region of Uttarakhand, started by Sundar Lal Bahuguna, helped in saving trees in the areas. Save Silent Valley Society in Kerala saved innumerable rare species of plants and animals found in Silent Valley. Now we will discuss wildlife conservation, causes of wildlife depletion and how we can conserve our wildlife. Causes of wildlife depletion. First is habitat loss. The destruction of natural habitats of animals by deforestation disturbs the life, growth and reproductive potential of the wild animals. Indiscriminate hunting. Indiscriminate killing and poaching of wild animals for food, skin, fur, horn, tusk, etc. has caused a reduction and elimination of many wild animals. Pollution. As we have discussed, due to pollution, there is a large number of death and elimination of sensitive wild species. Threatened species. The species of plants and animals whose members are greatly reduced in number or are near extinction are called threatened species. IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, has classified threatened species into the following categories. Endangered species, it means the species that are not likely to survive and will soon become extinct. Extinct मतलब वो ख़त्म हो जाएंगे if the same causative factors continue. अगर ऐसे ही हालात चलते रहे, they will get extinct. For example, Indian rhinoceros, Asiatic lion, lion-tailed macaque, crocodile, blue whale, etc. Next is vulnerable species. The species which are likely to move to endangered category in near future if the causative factors continue to operate. For example, black buck, golden langur, etc. Rare species, the species those that exist in small number and are localized only in certain geographical area and may enter into vulnerable category. For example, golden cat, wild buffalo, Asiatic wild ass are examples of rare species. Red Data Book. Red Data Book contains a record of all those species of plants and animals which are under the threat of extinction and are rare and vulnerable for extinction. The Red Data Book is maintained by World Conservation Union, Switzerland. Now we will discuss how wildlife is conserved. First is creation of protected areas. Second, strict laws to regulate hunting, captive breeding programs. Protected areas. Protected areas are undisturbed habitats for wildlife. They include national parks, wildlife sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. There are some famous national parks like Jim Corbett National Park. As of 2019, there were 104 national parks in India. Wildlife sanctuaries. A sanctuary is a protected area reserved for the conservation of wild animals, birds and plants. Hunting is strictly prohibited here. Biosphere reserves. A biosphere reserve is a specified land area in which multiple use of land is permitted for preserving biodiversity. It is divided into 3 zones: core zone, buffer zone, and manipulation zone. Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve was the first reserve established in India. Sundarbans, Kaziranga, Nanda Devi, Gulf of Mannar, etc. are some other biosphere reserves of India. Hunting regulations. Strict laws are needed to regulate hunting or poaching of animals. Hunting of endangered species should be banned. Destruction of natural habitats of wild animals should be prevented. Captive breeding. Breeding wild animals in captivity has saved some endangered species from extinction, such as musk deer in Garhwal Hills, lion in Gir Forest, and gharial in Nandakaran Zoological Park in Odisha. Project Tiger, Gir Lion Project, Crocodile Breeding Project, Himalayan Musk Deer Project, etc. are the some breeding projects to save endangered species. Legal provisions for the conservation of biodiversity. In our country, several legal provisions or acts related to conservation of wildlife and forest have been enacted by the government. These are Forest Conservation Act and Wildlife Protection Act. Now our topic is migration. Migration means the seasonal movement of animals in group from one habitat to another. This is called migration. The animals that migrate, they are called migratory animals. The common migratory animals are birds, fishes, turtles, whales, and butterflies. A Arctic tern fly the longest distance from North Pole to South Pole when there is winter in North, and back from South Pole to North Pole when there is winter in the South and summer in the North. Now the question arises, why do the animals migrate? Animals migrate to escape the inhospitable winter conditions, to find plenty of food, to lay eggs at warm place where they can incubate early. So students, that's all in this lesson. Thank you. Have a nice day.